John, I've been a huge fan of yours since Swingers.
Oh, thank you.
That's one of the eye-opening movies that I've seen in my youth. And I was wondering, how do you juggle all these different jobs? I mean, you're a comedian, you're an actor, a director, a writer, and a producer. Do you wake up in the morning and then basically decide, today I'm going to be directing, writing, and producing The Mandalorian and Grogu?
It's not that far off. I mean, I've done all those things, but it's been over many decades. And I get to concentrate kind of on one thing or a couple things at a time. In this case, I'm not acting, I'm directing, but I am writing and producing. But I'm lucky that I have a really good group of people around me doing it. But I think they're all storytelling, and I think that's the key. And sometimes on the smaller ones, you got to do everything at the same time. On these big ones, you have a lot of people who are there supporting you. So to me, it's about telling stories in film on the screen. And so I'm lucky I could draw upon all those things, but it really feels like I'm doing kind of the same thing regardless of which role I'm in. You're trying to tell a great story to the audience and communicate something and make them feel something.
And it's an amazing story, a great movie.
Thank you.
As you've been saying, it's always about the surroundings. And The Mandalorian and Grogu is about the mentor and his apprentice. And you've shaped the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You've reshaped the Star Wars universe. Is there someone that you would call your Mandalorian or your mentor that has been on your side?
Oh, a lot. I have a lot of mentors still. And sometimes we switch off, but you'll see there's a bunch of special thanks at the end of the movie with other filmmakers. There are a lot of filmmakers, and we look at each other. When we invite others to look at our stuff, we give each other advice. There's, of course, George Lucas, huge mentor on this. Dave Filoni, who is my partner as a mentor, who worked under George Lucas for a long time. Kathy Kennedy, a mentor. She's worked on films. When you sit down and you're facing a challenge and she says something like, well, on E.T. we did this. It's like, oh, okay. And she just has a list forever of all these movies that are so classic that you forget. We're talking about Jurassic Park and how they use the new technology. So there's a tradition of apprenticeship in Hollywood and in the filmmaking community. Of course, when I say Hollywood, it's really all around the world. And part of why I'm very happy this year that there's so many people are coming back to the movie theaters is I didn't want to see that tradition end. It looked a little precarious there for a while. The theater shut down for a while, and people weren't coming back as much. And there's so much competition for eyeballs and attention. And this year, what's nice is that if people are interested in what's in the theaters, they'll come out. And I think people coming together, that communal experience is important. I think it bridges differences, and I think it brings us together. I think it's easy for us all to feel very separated and divided. And I think experiences like going out to see music or for food or for festivals or for sports or for Star Wars or for movies, those are things that pull us together and realize that we're all sharing and we're all very similar. And when we cheer together and experience stories together, I think it brings out the best.
The fantastic thing about this movie is that it's for all, ages, and for, nerds and for people who've experiencing this for the first time. For movie nerds, just to make sure, because I had the feeling that there are a couple of cross-references in the movie. For example, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
And this one scene reminded me of an Asian thriller action movie called Hard Boiled.
Yes.
Was it intentional, or was that something that...
We definitely look. Star Wars has always been about referencing either other genres or filmmakers, or there is a tradition of referencing. But what we would often do is look at sequences from other movies. And Star Wars isn't a genre as much as it is a lens to other genres. But we definitely spoke about things, and also for production design. We looked at like Blade Runner for the way they, we could finally build big sets now. We couldn't do that on the show. And we had to introduce this to a new audience and didn't assume that anybody had seen or knew Star Wars. For the fans, you want to lay as much detail as you can in. But they're a perceptive crowd. You don't have to put much in to show them, and they'll catch everything you put in there. But for to create this big, rich cinematic experience. The first time in almost 7 years, Star Wars on the big screen, you want to pay it off. You want to make it bigger and better and take advantage of it. Be honest with you, I don't know how many movies I'm going to get to make now. I've done a lot, and this was I didn't want to let this opportunity go by. And so we looked at everything from Blade Runner to sequences from the films, like that you've mentioned, and let that inspire what it is, and then tell it through the filter of Star Wars. And so I'm glad you saw that, and I think it becomes, because we don't just love Star Wars, we love movies.
I love movies.
And we want to present, we want to celebrate the big screen here in every way. And I know that George Lucas, when I was young, opened the door for me to so many different genres. And when my dad said to me, I was 10 years old, I was a few years older maybe, my dad said, hey, you want to see the movie Star Wars is based on? It's playing at a revival house. I'm like, sure. And he brings me this black and white Japanese movie, Hidden Fortress. I have to read subtitles. I'm like, really, this? He's like, yeah, just watch it. I would have never picked that movie to watch. But then I said, oh, the princess. Oh, those are like the droids. Those. And then I started to learn about samurai movies. And I started watching every Kurosawa movie I could see. And by the time I was in high school, I would cut school and go, down to Greenwich Village and watch, if Samurai was playing or Yojimbo. And then that inspires us to make the TV show, And then the TV show inspires us to make a big screen adventure and introduce a whole new audience to these characters and to Star Wars, hopefully.
The look of the movie is amazing because it's so colorful and bright and positive. And on the other hand, everyone is talking about AI and CGI, and you use puppetry, and you you build real stages. Someone said that Star Wars is basically 80% reality and 20% fantasy, the way it looks.
The aesthetic, yes.
Exactly. Was that a clear choice that you said, I want to use puppetry in a sense that people can feel it and sense it and kind of...
It's part of Star Wars. Part of it is like what makes Star Wars Star Wars. And, it's amazing how much I felt for the character of Yoda, but because it's Star Wars, you accept it. I couldn't do that in a Marvel movie. Do you know what I mean? It's a different aesthetic. So there's always a mix of a little bit of the wonky, weird, kit-bashed feel of the droids with, and the creatures in the Star Wars, the Starport bar in Mos Eisley. Like, it wasn't always perfect, but it was consistent, and it was inspired, and it was evocative of your imagination. But Grogu, even as a puppet, is a super high-tech puppet. I mean, the servos and everything that goes into the remote controls. You have sometimes 5 people operating him. So I think it's the human performance, whether it's through the puppets, somebody wearing, the costume, the helmet, the combat sequences, or the animation. You have CG. We didn't have the opportunity we never had the time to build these big sets before, or the resources. But we have like 3 years here. We could create CG huts that could fight, that could do things that you never saw on the big screen before. Because with Star Wars, you got to give them something that's familiar, but you got to give them something new. When I went from Star Wars, I thought I saw everything, and then you go into Empire Strikes Back, and you see the walkers and the snow, and it blows your mind that all these things were coming out of George's imagination. And because we're working with a lot of the same teams who have worked with him, like Doug Chang and John Knoll, Phil Tippett on stop motion, that's another low-tech technology that, I gotta be honest, we're doing it. I don't know if a young audience is gonna appreciate that, but I do. Like, I love working on it. To be able to do a Phil Tippett, droid fight, like, that was not something that I thought, you don't get to do that on everything. Or John Goodson building miniatures and doing motion control miniatures. That's part of the love that, that allows us to tell a new story for new fans, but you got to put a lot of detail in there for the people who've been with you for 50 years. And they know the toys, they know the books, they know the video games, and then, of course, like you said, cinema fans who are cinema nerds too, and you want to throw stuff in there. So you want to have levels and layers of detail that make it fun for everybody. But you shouldn't be reticent to say, hey, if you've never seen Star Wars, come with me to the theater, you're going to have a good time too. And then you turn them on to Star Wars, and then they look at everything. And then when A New Hope gets re-released next year, they'll come there and see that too. So it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. There's a lot of great stories. There's a little something for everybody. Everything from Andor to Skeleton Crew. You got a lot of things covered now. The Mall show is on. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of inspired storytellers who are throwing in with this, and no matter what your taste of Star Wars, there's going to be something for you. And thanks to Dave Filoni and everybody at Lucasfilm, it all ties together in a way that feels consistent. But we're all having a blast doing this stuff, and I can't wait to be in the theaters with people seeing this, because it's that's what my biggest memory of Star Wars is, the energy in the theater, and I can't wait to. That's not something I've gotten to experience too much in Star Wars with the stuff I've made, because it wasn't on the big screen, and now it will be.